Good
All right,
evening,
good
ladies
evening,
and
everyone.
gentlemen. My name is Oluyemi Adeosun. I'd like to formally welcome you to tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. And our facilitator for tonight is Prince Adeniyi Aromolaran. And the topic he will be speaking to is building your organizational leadership capabilities. I would like to read a brief about his profile to us so that we can pay better attention and get the full benefit of tonight's edition. Adeniyi Nehemiah Aromolaran, AA, the Transformer, as he is fondly referred to, is an unrepentant advocate and champion of national public sector reforms, private sector self-leadership, and people empowerment. He was at various times an elected council member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. He was the founding and pioneer chapter chairman, Lekki Ajabadore CIPM chapter, lead resource person for the development, training, and implementation of the CIPM, Federal Government of Nigeria Public Service Performance Management System, signed in the Civil Service Charter during the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. He is presently a council member of the Nigerian Institute of Training and Development. At other times, he was a council member of the Nigerian Britain Association, serving in capacities of Honorary Deputy Financial Secretary, Honorary Financial Secretary, Honorary Treasurer, and Honorary General Secretary. He was a one-time global president of Government College, Lagos Old Boys Association. AA is a certified sustainable development solutions and modeling consultant, an International Finance Corporation and Performance Institute certified trainer, an expert in residence at the Enterprise Development Center, EDC, Lagos Business School, Pan-African University, Lagos, Nigeria. He's presently the Executive Director, Enterprise Service Directorate at the Lagos State Development and Property Corporation, LSDPC, where he is responsible for managing the enterprise and leading the transformation agenda. Prior to his appointment on the 1st of June 2022, he was at various times country team lead, chief development officer at Nehemiah Place. He was head HR consulting, learning management, public sector reforms, and executive team leadership at Vic Lawrence and Associates. His work experience also went beyond the shores of Africa, as he has worked in the United Kingdom for Abbey Life Assurance Company Limited, a member company of the Lloyds Bank Group. In 2007, he was headhunted by a group of investors led by Skybank Group to join the executive management team, making him the youngest member of the management team as at that time. Okay, and he led the transformation and repositioning agenda as group head, corporate development and strategy, the division comprising corporate strategy, human capital management, corporate communications, brand management, legal, and management and administration. The transformation and repositioning agenda led to a name change from Equity Life Insurance Company Limited to Crystal Assurance PLC, later ARM Life Assurance PLC, and now Tangerine Insurance Company. He, as the head of transformation team, increased the premium income of the company from 150 million naira to over 2 billion naira in just over 2 years. Prior to 2007, he held various responsibilities as team lead for several organizations, leadership, learning, strategy process, and so on and so forth. And some of them, as part of his dedication to human capacity development and fulfillment, he has initiated and promoted a number of social enterprise programs. Some of them include Enterprise Development Program for Women, Young People Internship Program, Achieving Well-being in Retirement, Think Like a CEO, HR Mentoring with AA, and so on and so forth. Prince Adeniyi Aromolaran is a graduate of Finance and Banking from the University of Lagos. He is married to Princess Omolara Ajoke Aromolaran, and they are blessed with 4 children and 2 grandchildren, even though he doesn't look it. He loves bodybuilding, playing lawn tennis, swimming, reading, traveling, and gardening. Tonight, for the second time on this prestigious platform, teaching us on the subject, building your organization's leadership and capabilities, Prince Adeniyi Aromolaran. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Council Member Oluyemi Adeosun, my own personal person, my homie. It's always a pleasure, it's always an honor. Distinguished colleagues, guests, and everyone that is interested in this very interesting topic called leadership. Very simple, but can be very complicated. And everything we do on this prestigious platform, I consider it a very prestigious and distinguished platform. It's as a result of some hard work of research and insight from unusual things, from unusual ways. And tonight I'm going to be sharing not theory, but practical experience. For example, let me start with a story today before I even go into the slides. A few years back, I had the opportunity to sit on the board of a company and sit in their recruitment for senior people and a CEO. And so I invited, which was unusual, I invited all the other C-suite leaders from AGM and above into a room. And I asked the gentleman who was going to become the MD to join us. And I asked a simple question. And I asked each of the other colleagues from AGM and above to give me an answer. And the question was simple. Why should this man be your CEO and MD? And they all looked at me strangely and thought, what a question. I said, yes, why would you obey him? Why would you listen to him? Why would you follow him? Why should this man be your CEO? Both the C-suite leaders, AGMs and above, to the EDs, and even the man being brought in, who thought he was just going to meet with us, we will have a chat, was taken quite aback. But I asked all of them, and I insisted that they gave me an answer there and then. Some of them said, could they write? I said, no, there's no need to write. Give me your response. And a gentleman and one lady did say that if they gave their honest view and that if he was recruited, he might become biased with them. And I said to them, leaders are not meant to be biased. Leadership is meant to be sincere and honest with each other because there's something called collective leadership. When collective leadership fails, you cannot point finger at one person. That's the first thing I want us to understand. There's something called collective leadership. Now, I don't know any one of us who can remember if you have ever read George Orwell's book, Animal Farm. If you have never read it, go and look for that book. One of the high points of George Orwell's book, Animal Farm, and I read it, I think, back in primary school or secondary school, was that it summarized and said, all animals are equal, but one is more equal. So he recognized collective leadership, but within leadership, he recognized headship. Unfortunately for us, we have not actually sat down to study very carefully. Earlier today, I was discussing with a group and I said it's amazing how every time I read the Holy Book, something on leadership springs up. And I'm going to be sharing those thoughts that provoke me to dig a bit deeper. And so I want you to be clear in your mind. When you recruit, we recruit for maybe 3 E's: education, experience. The other 2 E's, I'm not really sure how we address it when we're recruiting. So you want to know the education background of the person you're recruiting. You want to know the experience. And these are the 2 major things that we use to determine the package or their suitability for a job role. But the other E is exposure. Exposure is actually very important because exposure is what helps you build leadership traits, exposure to different situations. And then the other fourth E is expertise. What are you predominantly an expert in, that if they were going to talk about situational leadership, you will be referred to as a subject matter expert? Now, I've laid that foundation, and I want you to keep those thoughts at the back of your mind so that as we maneuver and go on this flight together, you know where my thoughts are. Tonight, we're talking about building your organizational leadership capabilities. We're going to look at all those keywords: building, organization, leadership, and capabilities, so that we can apply the intrinsic meaning to this discussion adequately and appropriately. So let us move on now. I don't know why. Okay, so building. I've illustrated it here by different people, male and female, in an organization, bringing stuff to build. So building organization leadership capabilities will involve everybody, bottom to top, top to bottom. That's another thing you need to keep at the back of your mind. And so this is the presentation agenda. We're going to look at, well, my brother has done a good job. He's introduced my twin. I'm only representing my twin here. I'll give you an executive summary. We'll look at the engaging words. Then we look at laying the requisite foundation for this building process. And then we'll look at designing and executing your plan. I deliberately took out something because I can't give us everything in one breath. I think that would take a while. The dialogue 4 was meant to look at evaluating and measuring the impact of your plan. I believe that would be another day to do that. Now, before I carry on, if you did not participate in the earlier session on organizational structure, I think you need to go and listen to that recording, because this can easily have been part 2 of that organizational structure, because there's some things that play a fundamental role in building capacity, leadership capacity in your organization. All right, so we all know this. You can always find it. You can always follow me on any of this. We can keep the conversation going. And I always like to talk about this. What's in it for me? Again, I would like 2 people so that we can manage our time. What are your expectations? Even though I put here 3, let's do 2, 1 male, 1 female. Who and who we volunteer, just unmute and then just share what your expectations are, so that maybe if I need to realign or expand or extend or diminish, I will do that as we carry on. So why are you here? What's in this session for you? What do you want to hear? What do you want to learn? What do you want to do with what you hear? Can 2 people volunteer? One male, 1 female. The floor is open. My dear council members, sir, if I can't see everybody, but if we can see if there's anyone volunteering to share why they're here.
They're dropping messages already. Kolawale
Yes.
Temitope says, I am here to build my leadership skill and sharpen my knowledge. Lawa Yusuf says, to learn about what leadership capabilities is all about. I'm not sure about the agenda, whether they are both male or one is a male or female.
All right, I will take it that way. Now, she says, I am here to build my leadership skill and sharpen my knowledge. Now, that's an incomplete objective. So that what will happen? So that you can do what? It's important that you learn something to do something. That's why we're looking at the word building. So when you talk about building, there is an end in sight. What do you want to do when you build those things? I want to get to the C-suite. I want to become this. I want to be able to impact lives. You must always make sure that your objectives get you to a point, and then you can now move from that point. So it's all good. 2 people, fine. That's fantastic. All right, so let's carry on. All right, so again, my appeal for us is let us endeavor to keep it simple, interesting, and short. Try not to preempt me. Just keep an open mind, and then don't jump ahead of me. Don't think you know where I'm going, so that we can go along together. It's nice to travel. I don't travel alone. I like to travel with people so I can go very far. All right. This is the executive summary on this presentation. So if you don't remember anything else, remember this slide. The key to building an organization's leadership capabilities is influence, not authority. Management seeks authority, or managers seek authority, and the community of managers always look for authority. Whereas the coalition, as it were, of leaders look for influence. I want you to remember this: influence and not authority. They do different things. So, for example, just give me 1 second. For example, and I will just stop the video with character. Character, guidance, motivating, inspiration, accountability, collaborating, engaging, supporting, empathizing, harmony. So leadership tries to create an harmonious environment. They try to build character. Now, authority speaks about controlling. Authority gives you orders. Authority dictates. Authority wants to enforce. Authority is autocratic. Sometimes authority can be manipulative. Sometimes authority enforces by threats. So you will hear authority saying, this is an appraisal issue. Don't worry when the appraisal comes. Authority creates toxicity. They put fear in people, and most of the time you find that there's displeasure, and then people stagnate. I hope I'm making sense. So you find out these are the 2 different things. And these things illustrate a number of things. Character is built. Guidance is also something you build over time, because you are building trust when you're guiding. Am I making sense to you? Can you begin to see the difference? Whereas when authority wants to control you, so the traffic warden on the road is not trying to build any trust in you. Sometimes that's the way managers are. They don't want to build any trust. They just want to control you. Do this, because there's something called performance appraisal. So they want to use that. Sometimes they manipulate, sometimes they use stress. And at the end of the day, you find that there's a toxic environment. So have this also at the back of your mind. Now, one key motivation and inspiration to research in depth on leadership came from this word. Just the same way I shared with you the last time about something that inspired me to dig further. This was a story of a few people. They complained that the way a process was being managed was not benefiting them. And so the headship among the group came forward and said, therefore, brethren, choose from among you 7 men with good reputation, men of godly character and moral integrity, full of the Spirit and of wisdom, whom we may put in charge of this task. Now, these are not qualifications, they are traits. Now, I'm going somewhere with this. These are traits. These men, when you choose them, we will all be agreed. We all agree that they have good reputation, men of godly character, moral integrity, full of the Spirit and of wisdom. Now, this is important when you want to build capability. It's important that we are thinking alike, not necessarily like-minded, but thinking alike. Our value orientation is aligned so that we can all together want to build a good organization with capabilities. Very important. Now, when you are doing this, I'm saying here we should look out for certain character traits beyond qualifications, years of work experience, previous positions held, and roles. And all of these things, sincerely, they are undeniably very important. But character traits carry heavier weight if you want to build your organization's leadership capabilities. Because trust is behind all of this. If you are saying we should behave this way, then you ahead of me should be the champion. So if we say we're starting at 7, and imagine I sign in at 7:15, I am not demonstrating the traits of a leader. So in simple meetings, for example, because I'm the MD or I'm the senior person, I set a time for a meeting and I stroll in 10 minutes after the meeting, I am not demonstrating that leadership traits. It's important that we all take note of these same small things. Now, character traits are mostly uncommon and unusual abilities, common unusual qualities, uncommon, unusual orientations, behaviors, mannerism, and they challenge status quo. So sometimes within organization, you're clamoring for certain behaviors and orientation while other people are kicking against it because they like authority. Now, authority does not build leadership capabilities in organization. I will show you. Now, these leadership character traits are either inherent, that means they're inborn, or could be cultivated in people over time. We will decide which one we want to do as we carry on. And so now let's look at those key indicative words that I was talking about earlier on. The first one there was building, organization, leadership, capabilities. I am going to take time to explain them in relation to this topic so that when you are developing your plan, you'll be able to understand the roles they will play and the time frame and how you will measure. Now, the reason why I took out the evaluating the impact is as a result of the building involved in the process, because the time frame from each organization to each organization will vary. It may be something that we will have to work with you to ensure that you have the right plan and then you have the way to measure them over time. So building, what is building? The word itself signifies and indicates intentionality. I am building not necessarily after the pattern of somebody else. Now, I can copy a design, but when I give it to my architect to put up the architectural design, there might be variations. So you can copy, you can take Fortune 500 companies, you can take global companies and say, we want to build after this person. If, for example, you go to the website of Nordstrom, Nordstrom is a fashion company in the US, and I will encourage you to go to their website. They said we treat our people the way we want our people to treat our customers. Let me repeat that. One of the things they said was that we treat our people the way they want them to treat our customer. So they are building leadership capabilities. We teach them to attend to our customers as if they are the CEO. Now, that's two things. Let me take that again. They said we teach our people to attend to each customers as if they were the CEO in all our shops anywhere in the world. Now, that's what you call organizational capacity. That means you don't need to call the CEO. Each person in the organization, as it were, is like a CEO. So whatever the CEO knows, whatever the CEO does, they say we are delegating it to you, we're committing it to you to act likewise. So if a customer was talking to you and you said to the customer, A is A, the customer, if he were to call the MD will say A is A. That is what is called organizational capacity, leadership organizational capacity. Now, that is challenging for many organizations because you will have to refer to someone because they have not really equipped you well. That's why I said the building takes a while. Now, the building also means that you have an end in mind. You have a situation, like I said, of Nostrum, where it will be that everybody as an individual is like a CEO, thinking, acting, behaving, without anyone having a complex. We'll get there. Building signifies that there must be a design, there must be a structure or a framework, there must be a value mindset. We want to behave this way. We want to think this way. We want to attend to solutions. We want to provide solutions this way. There is a process. There is a roadmap. All these are very crucial and important. Organization. The word itself signifies and indicates collective responsibility. Organization. Not department, not unit, not the individual, organization. So we want something that breathes across the whole organization. We want this virus to capture everybody's heart and mind. And so whichever person I touch, I am breathing this virus called leadership capabilities in the organization. It requires coordination. There will be a system. It's a top to bottom approach and bottom to top approach. It requires relating, involving, and affecting all. It becomes our culture. So we talk about culture, but interestingly, it is not available. So interestingly, let me tell you the second story here, this organization thing. So an organization was going to recruit a young lady to fill a particular position. In like manner, everyone that was meant to be at the panel was there. And then the reporting line, the manager this young lady will report to was also there. This was the final leg of the interview. And then I turned to her. I said, are you comfortable working and reporting to this gentleman? Why should he be your manager? And she said, I'm sorry, no. And I said, oh, why? Oh, that is a very erratic man. He shouts, he screams. And sometimes in the early days when he met him, he screamed and he brought fear into the people that walked around him. And I saw them make a lot of mistakes. And so we asked her to excuse us. And then I turned to the team lead and the other C-suite members in the panel. I said, what do you guys think? They said, no, we can't recruit her. No. She's a loud man. I allowed them to all talk. And I said, you know what she's doing? She's challenging the status quo. She's challenging the status quo. And sometimes you need people in your organization, if you want to be true to yourself, to build leadership capabilities, people that will challenge your status quo. So I now turned to them and I said, okay, let me ask you. You are all his colleagues, you worked with him for a while. Did the lady say the truth or did she tell a lie? It was the MD that first spoke and said, yes, we have noticed this and we have been telling him. I said, what have you done about it? So there was the absence of collective responsibility that we call peer review. If you want to build leadership capabilities, there must be something called peer review, open, sincere peer review. MD, this is what you do. It's not helping us build organizational leadership capability. This is what you do. So I now said to them, I said, if you shout, it's a consequence of something in your past that you haven't dealt with and nobody has spoken to you about. So I said to them, I said, have you looked at your core values? One of them is empathy. So I said, what is empathy? And the funny thing was that they were all quiet. So I said, but how did you come up with your core values? They said the consultant gave us. If the consultant gave you, did you ask him for the mannerism that depicts your core values? And I'm speaking to everybody on this call. Have you sat down to define the mannerism, the behavior that defines your core value? When you say honesty, what do you mean by honesty? If you say team bonding or team building, or team collaboration, what is the behavior that you will demonstrate to illustrate your core values? At the end of the day, that session to engage that fellow became a training intervention for them to understand their core values. So if empathy was their core values, was that man, that senior person, demonstrating empathy, supportiveness, by screaming and making people get afraid and make mistakes. And they are shaking in front of him. And he was enjoying it. He was feeling like the Lord of the manor. That is not organization. And that way, you can build leadership capabilities. Let's carry on. Leadership is a role. It's not a position. It is a role. It is an attitude. It is responsibility. It is accountability. You are a motivator. You are an inspiration. You drive vision. You keep people on focus. You give direction. You set goals and objectives. That is what leadership does. Are we still together? Are we still here? Can somebody answer so that I know we're all still here together? Are we still together? I'm waiting for someone to give me a response. Are we still together? Kindly unmute and answer me. Are we still together?
We are with you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Then capabilities.
There are messages in the chat box. We are with you, sir.
I'm trying not to keep looking at the chat box. I know that people are.
Yes, we are together.
All right, fantastic. So capability. Now, there are some things I put here that are organizational capabilities. Your ability to recruit and select right. This is very important. Your capability and ability to manage your talents, manage careers, manage your leadership pipeline, manage employee engagement, succession, learning and development, performance management. These are all organizational capabilities. And indeed, at every level, whether you're the MD, you're the line manager, you're a supervisor, you should look at all of these things and you are developing the capability to address them in line with your corporate goals and objectives. So capability speaks of ability. So when you talk about organization, you're talking about cumulative organization ability, cumulative organization capacity, then cumulative organization consistency. So if you are recruiting and you say these are the requirements to recruit for this position, these are the KPIs, then you have to stand true. Now, this is difficult when you find yourself in a political environment or in a compromised environment. Consistency becomes very difficult because you get pressures from here and there. And so it becomes subjective. It becomes left to people to take decisions outside the consistency of your process, of your policy, then you're not building organizational leadership capabilities. It also speaks about succession, because that's the important thing, that when you leave, and sometimes we all behave as if we'll never leave an organization. You want to leave an organization with a DNA. It's important. So let me tell us the first story very quickly. So I was the founding and pioneer chairman of CIPM Lekki Ajaba Dore chapter. It was called PPC then. And the intentionality at that time was driven by one thing in my mind: diversity management. That was gender diversity, inclusiveness, equality, and inclusion. And so I said to myself that I'm going to be the first chairman, male. I want the next person who will take over from me, that I will hand over to be female, and thereafter a male, and then a female. And I sat down and I said, this is the intentionality of the plan. And I said, how will I make this happen? So I looked at our organizational structure. There was a chairman, there was a vice chairman, there was a general secretary, an assistant general secretary, there was a financial secretary, there was a treasurer, and then there were 2 ex officio that is meant to be filled by a male and a female. And so I sat down and I said, okay, if I am the first male, then the vice should be a female, the general secretary should be a male, the assistant general secretary should be a female, and all the way down like that. And so we became intentional about filling the post like that. And last Wednesday, we had our 10th AGM. And we looked back and we realized that it has been that way. Each person has sustained it. Each leader has sustained those things. And I sat back after 6 or so leadership, and I said to them, I said, we're good for the next 6 years. The person handing over that will become the immediate past chairperson is male. He handed over to a female. The female chair as a male vice. The general secretary is female. So I said, for the next 6 years, all things being equal, our consistency in succession will remain. And so lab has an identity, and we empower people. We even empowered the incoming, who was the vice, to choose who she wanted to be her vice. And she chose the young man, and people said he's young. And I said, we are generational conscious. We don't want the chair picking somebody in our generation. We want somebody younger so that you can impact, and so that the next generation can continue the work in agility and in energy. This is what I'm talking about, building leadership capabilities. That was why I said I'm not coming to share with theory. It is the things we have done. And I'm talking as far back as 2013, when the world was not talking about gender diversity, inclusion, equality, and all of that. And people look back and ask me, hey, how did you think about this? I said, because I want something called legacy to outlive me. And so the next generation, for the next 10 years, at least after that 6 years, all things being equal, we're looking forward to say we will continue that pipeline in leadership. And then we spoke to them about our DNA, that the fact that we don't like to use the word manage, that whenever we hear that word, let us manage, we cringe and we revolt immediately. That is what is called building capability, right? Let's carry on. All right, building your organizational leadership capabilities. There's a foundation, and I'm sure, as you know, every building has a foundation. This is where it starts. And I've said considerations to put on the front burner when you want to develop this plan is important. Now, I may not be able to deal with everything in detail, but I'm sure you will take out a number of things. So the foundation What do you need to consider? Now, like I've said, qualifications and other engagement requirements of the individual is critical, very critical. But beyond them are other requirements more relevant for building your organization's leadership capabilities. And all these characteristics are not very visible. You have to devise a way to find them out when you meet an individual. And I've shared a few with you. Even the new chairperson, the chairman of Lekki Ajabadore, she had all her people that were contesting for positions online. She was there. Past leaders were there. We've even set up a college of past leaders, not just in an advisory role. The past leaders evaluate the leadership and the outcome of every leadership, and we get involved in the discussion of the dream and the plan that is presented by the incoming chair to us. So we're able to monitor, we're able to keep people online. And we ask them, each person contesting, why should Arinola be your chair in this chapter? Without hesitation, we told them, we're building leaders. Leaders must be sincere. Leaders should be open. Tell it as it is. Now, if the headship now gets offended by it, then that person is immature. So there's something called a maturity of leadership. I'm not going to talk about that. I just said, let me mention it. Maturity of leadership. Some people call it emotional intelligence, leadership emotional intelligence. You see where, because of all my research, that's why I found out that emotional intelligence just didn't come out. It is called leadership maturity, where you're able to manage your emotions in such a way that you don't read meaning. And you will see where I'm going with that. So here are some of those things that you need to find a way to identify in the individual and set it as an agenda when you want to build your organizational leadership capabilities. One of them is willingness to welcome and accept situational leadership with candor. Candor means with openness and sincerity. Sometimes leaders invite subject matter experts, like I said earlier on, and tell them, handle this situation. Be the set man. You take the front and let me take the back seat. They are called situational leadership. If you find a boss or a senior person who wants to take the front line always, there's an issue with that. If I ask you on this call now, for example, who is the current managing director of GT Bank? I don't know how many of us know the name of the lady. You might know Agbaje, but who is the current chairman after Agbaje became chairman? How many times have you seen her on the front pages of newspapers? How many times have you seen her speak to the press? But there she's there, and she's doing her work. But she's pushing other people. Imagine if she had to be everywhere. Imagine if she had to go marketing, she had to do this. Number two, you must find the individual who is willing and who has the ability, capacity to empower others to do what they need to do without fear, without any intimidation. Number three, an individual who has the personality that is not driven by inferiority complex. The moment they feel that this person is outstanding, that person cannot be a leader if you are still struggling with personality inferiority complex. If you are struggling with criticisms as a leader, then you haven't matured yet. Criticisms is a God-given platform for you to review. Even the Holy Book said the Lord chastises them that he loves. Even the Lord will chastise you and he will prune you. Criticisms is meant to prune you. Criticisms is meant to keep you on your toes. Leaders welcome criticism as a launch pad to do better things. You must find the individual who is ready to accept challenges to status quo. Sir, why should things remain this way? If you have been doing it many years ago, must you continue to do it now? Can we try something else? And leaders must learn to allow superior argument to be the consideration in taking a decision. It cannot always be historical. If a superior argument is put on the table, let us welcome it, let us receive it. All right, so when you are designing and executing your plan, there are tools. Your onboarding program, some people call it induction. Many of us need to revisit that induction. I tell people, I said is actually, and what's the word now? You're actually indoctrinating them into your leadership, understanding, and expression. Your meetings. Do you hold meetings and you're always the one chairing the meeting? Meetings are training grounds to develop and prepare leaders. And don't make the mistake, as many people do. Your deputy or any of the other people only anchor the meeting or chair the meeting when you're not available. Once in a while, when you are seated there, like I always do with my teammate people, you are the one taking the meeting. Sometimes I give them notice. Sometimes when they arrive for the meeting, I will say to them, you are the one taking the meeting today. See what they do while you're there so that you can have comfort and safety when you are not there. This is very important. Meetings are very powerful tools to build organizational leadership capabilities. It helps you watch whether your people are learning anything from you. When they do it behind you, you are not sure whether they're learning anything. Book reviews. Are you a reader as a leader? Do you read at all? Do you pick up a book and read, and you find the book interesting, and you buy it for all your C-suite leaders, and you say to them, go and read. We're going to review this in 2 weeks' time. Do you buy books for your team members to read? Do you direct them online to books they can read? It's important. And don't just let them read the book. Do a book review. What leadership things are we taking from here? Then encourage them to facilitate strategic sessions. Let it not be just your normal meetings. Let them think through a solution for a problem in the organization and let them come and present it. Let them learn to think outside the box or without the box. Then let them anchor meetings. Sometimes let them know ahead, other times don't let them know. Then you must have a coaching and mentoring agenda. Then you must have internship programs. Then understudy. If you visit, for example, the United States Congress, every congressman or woman has an understudy who follows them into the chambers and sits behind them. And they watch what they do. They watch how they talk. They watch how they address situations. All these are important. Like I said, it's not exhaustive, but these are the things I could immediately think about. But I'm sure we will keep the conversation going. All right, let me pause a bit because these are my closing counsel. And so I'm going to pause a while for you to reminiscence on what I've said. And from your reminiscing, maybe you might develop 1 or 2 questions or clarification you want to ask me. So while you're thinking about that, also dwell on this. So as we look ahead, leaders will be those who empower others. I can't do everything. Council member Adeosun can't do everything. But what we can do is to continually share with you some of the things we have learned that we have documented. I know how many people have come to me and say, hey, you need to put all these things in a book. And I said, I am working on it. I'm putting it together. And so as you look at this, I also want to say something that, sometimes people might look at it and just think, what are they talking about? Council member Adeosun said something. He said, when We're blessed with 4 children and we have 2 grandchildren. The interesting thing is that I learned something also very early in life, that my health is a bank deposit. And depending on what I deposit on it, it will speak in later years. Interestingly, next year, some of you might find it difficult to believe, I will turn 60 next year, June. We have 4 children. You know, the girl will always marry before the male. The female will always marry. So we have a son, we have a daughter, we have another son, we have a daughter, in that number. And this was intentional. That's for another day. Now, on my own side of the family, all my siblings have only girls. On my wife's side, they all have male. We're the only ones that have 2 male and 2 female. It was also intentional. Now, that's for another day. What we did is for another day. And then, but what we still do, and we've been doing for the last 20 or 25 years, is that we try 3 times a week to take a minimum of 5 kilometers walk. I have a treadmill at home. I have an exercise bike. I have a bull walker. I still try and do the push-ups every other day. 50, sometimes I push myself to 75. I try to swim. I'm just taking up golf. I'm thinking maybe I should go back to school and take up law. So I'm tasking myself. I'm challenging myself. I am involved in what is necessary. This is what leadership is about. Leadership is an action, not a position. And leadership uses their influence to daily impact lives positively. He spoke about social platforms that I drive. We also have what is called the Nehemiah Aromalaron Foundation. We drive a social support program called Lending a Hand, so that every 26th of December, we'll have been gathering old clothes, things you haven't used in your house for 3 months, and we look for a less disadvantaged community and we sew it in there. That's leadership, example, in front, doing something different, never saying you are tired. This is important. And so, I want us to look at this again. Leaders will be those who empower others. This program, what Council Member Adeosun is doing, is not because he's making money from it. He's empowering others. And that's why it's an honor for me to be here. It's a privilege. It's also demonstrating what I believe passionately. Leadership is an action, not a position. Then leadership uses influence, their influence to daily impact lives. He said, I am an unrepentant advocate for public sector reforms. That is 300% true. I'm also an advocate for private sector self-regulation. That's why we started what is called Rethinking Nigerian Business Leadership program. It's an agenda. Rethinking Nigerian business leadership ecosystem. Let us self-govern ourselves. Let us behave like leaders and then impact lives positively. As I close tonight and move into questions and answer, I'm asking you, do you have any further clarification or questions you need me to answer? I want to believe that if you didn't take anything away, you would take what my first slide said. The core or the key to building your organization's leadership capability is influence and not authority. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My council member, I yield the floor to you. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for the people that have been online.
Wow. Thank you so much, AA. That was powerful, very, very profound, deep. So many comments in the chat room, people celebrating your depth of wisdom, your knowledge and experience that you have so graciously shared with us so far. I see Paul is raising his hands. If you have any question, please raise your hands. We'll quickly enable you to ask your questions. Paul, you can please unmute Paul. You have the floor, Paul.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Paul.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your lecture. This will be the second time I will be listening to you. So fantastic. I have a question. In a situation as a leader where you are not chanced to determine who will succeed you. I was in a forum yesterday, and the man was saying he was a chairman of a union, and by the time he wanted to leave as a chairman, he wanted somebody that could take over, but not his tribe. But they refuted against him that no, we want this thing to be a Yoruba to Yoruba. And they fought him until they succeeded in bringing a Yoruba that was not competent. Now they are having issues. And it has also happened to me before when I was the president of an association, and I could not determine because it's like a rotation from one group to another. It's combined of 5 groups. So it was my group that was why I could become the president, but I can't determine who will be my president, the second that will succeed me from another group. How will you influence that to make the right choice? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul. Let me take us back to what I said. You see, when you are a leader, there are 4 things you don't do. There's nothing called religious affection. There's nothing called gender affection. There's nothing called ethnic affection. There's nothing affectionate about the fact that you just want competency and you want succession based on values. Now, if I take you back, there was a time I was working for an organization and I had eight heads of department reporting to me. Eleni Dakwa, Odile, I can't remember her surname. And we had people. So from all the 6 geopolitical zones, but we didn't have anyone from the north. And I said to them, I need somebody from the north. And they went to find me Adiza. She was from the north. Now, when I'm recruiting, there are 3 things my team removes: your gender, your religion, your ethnic. It doesn't matter. And if I say to you that all these heads of department, they were women. There was Monica, there was Titilayo, there was Titilope, there was at some point there was Adiza, there was Ellen, all of them were women. It didn't matter as long as you have a DNA you are passing. And I used lab chapter. I was the first. Dayo was the second. Then we had Ike, Ikechukwu, and then we had Bridget Ighodalo. We had Indidi. We had Sunday Nabulili. It didn't matter where they came from. The most important thing was that did they demonstrate the DNA we were trying to drive? I have not imposed anyone on anyone in any leadership position. Because we are building an organization, we are building character traits. We're not building elements of ethnicity or religiosity. I need to repeat that extensively. You're also not building gender affection. No. You have set the KPI. You have set the goalpost. You are not to impose. So that's why I said we may not be able to evaluate the plan and the effectiveness of the plan, but one thing you should have at the back of your mind is when you are setting the objectives for leadership, let it not be driven by religion, ethnicity, or gender. Because male and female, they both have capabilities. And it is important for you to build those capabilities along the lines of corporate goals and objectives. And that's why we still have this challenge for so many people. Yesterday, they said to me of a man who has 5 wives because he was looking for a male children. The first one gave him 3 girls. He went to look for another wife. That one gave him 4. He went to look for another one. That one gave him 3. He 5 wives. None of them gave him male. And so the man is sad. Children are children. If you've developed legacy mindset in them, they will do exceedingly for you. I can remember Serena and Venus Williams. In that family, they have a lawyer and other people. But the girls are the ones that brought fame to that family. So imagine that family was waiting and saying, we want a man to keep on my legacy. There is no legacy that will be. So you've said 2 things that I think you should go and correct. You cannot choose a leader for the people. If you set up characteristics and traits, it is easier to say, sir, you are not fitting because of these traits. We see that you are not accountable. We see that you don't have the right attitude. We see that you are not responsible. We see that you don't have a vision. You are not focused. You don't have direction. You don't set goals and objectives. And so because of that, we're not supporting you. Anything to do outside those becomes an anomaly and it will not stand. And you will always have problems. And you can't come back and say, well, the reason why I can beat my chest and I can look back and I can see a line of leaders driving the same thing. I am not imposing. I am not building a monument for myself. I am not getting anything from it. Rather, I'm bringing on board all the time the wisdom, the knowledge. So let us be clear that as leaders, you don't impose. You have create many leaders. Let the people choose. Now, if you create a pipeline of succession, you have to be intentional about it. Remember what I said. We had an agenda to welcome diversity, inclusiveness, equality. Yesterday, I told them that settle for once and for all the issue that when a female is the chair of a place, stop calling her chair lady. She's the chairman. She's chairing the board. She's chairing, call her chairman. We're just talking about alpha female and alpha male. We're just complicating problems. The chairman is the chairman, whether she's male or female. Give her the respect. Now, when you start saying chair lady, you begin to want to treat her in an emotional and sentimental manner. Ask any of those ladies, whether it's Dayo, whether it's Bridget, whether it's Indidi, whether it's Ariola, when we do the performance evaluation, there's nothing like female sensitivity. You were the chairman. You had KPIs. You presented your goals and objectives, and we will evaluate it carefully. So it's not a question of, no. Remove sentiments from leadership. See, leaders are not sentimental people. They can show empathy, but they're not. So go back again and reinvent your plan to involve everybody and set goals that are measurable, that you can use to measure character, not origin, not religion, not affinity. That is my response to you, Paul. I hope I've thrown more light to how you can go about this.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. My brother, you have the floor. Council Member Adeosun.
Thank you so much for that excellent response. We have just one more question, and it's on the Zoom chat. I'll read it out quickly. We startup company, when the proposed salary for key positions is average due to limited funds and competent candidates keep rejecting the offers, No, sir.
Okay, you're breaking a bit. You said, okay, read the question again.
I think my network may be misbehaving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. How do you build the capacity of a startup company when the proposed salary for key positions is average due to limited funds and the competent candidates keep rejecting the offers?
All right. Thank you very much. Now, I don't know. Leaders are very, very strange people. I said is a trait. If I tell you that every role I have taken has come first with a pay cut, every role has come with a pay cut. Every role. I'm not working in the private sector now. I'm sure you heard council member Adeosun say I'm an ED in LSTPC. There's no way you will compare what happens in LSTPC to if it was a private sector. Sometimes for you to build the future that you want, you might need to step back and take a pay cut. So sometimes you need to look at the traits. Leaders will say, it does not matter. We see today, but I can see the opportunities of tomorrow. See, leaders can smell opportunities. They can see potential. So I still need to talk to us sometime, maybe later. See, leadership is a very interesting, it's not, like I said, it's an unusual thing. They see opportunities. Okay, you know about, what's his name, Bill Gates. You knew when they wanted to take Microsoft from him. And he said, take the building, take all the assets, but give me the men. Give me the workers, give me the men, male and female, give me to me. I will rebuild again. It's not about now. So if you say a startup, in fact, yesterday I was at a 50th birthday of someone who said all the people he invited to that birthday party were people who had made impact in his life, and we were all there. And he said he had an option to join an already existing company and the option to join a startup. But that God bless his wife, who has been an influence in every career decision, and he opted for the startup. That startup company, he made a statement yesterday. He said, now this startup company many years ago, where I am now, I have no worry for money. And his father was there. His father said, I am grateful to God for this guy. He bought me a brand new car worth 40 million. He joined a startup. My brother, it is not today, it is tomorrow. Can you see? Leaders have a way of seeing what the others don't see. Like I said, there's still so much I didn't talk about leadership. Leadership can smell, you hear people say, smell the coffee. When everybody can smell opportunities, leaders have that helicopter orientation. They will smell the coffee. Let me repeat what that guy said. He said, right now, I have no worry for money. And he wasn't talking about money in Naira. I know him very well. He's an Aburo. I was grateful to the Almighty God that my wife and I were invited to that small group of people. Some of the people there is the owner of Aluko, Oyebode & Co., Mr. Oyebode himself. And if you know Mr. Oyebode, he said something. He said, these are people here who I can't give money to because some of them are stinkingly rich, but they made an impact. He spoke about his professor. He spoke about some of his teachers who had made impact. I'm sure the salary of those teachers were not anything near. I can assure you that none of the teachers that taught him or his professor has earned 1% of what he's earning. But he's an humble human being. Humble, soft-spoken, gentle. When they asked me to say what I think about him, in one statement, I said God-fearing. is a God-fearing human being. So it's not for now. It's for you to step back and ask yourself, you are still going to be looking for that leadership trait in the person that will say it does not matter. Let me give you further comfort and go and check every role I've taken after leaving the bank has been a pay cut until we can get things right. So we will continue to try and bake a bigger cake, but a pay cut does not mean you're failing. You're only falling forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, my prince. Very, very insightful question. Thank you to everyone who has contributed through the chat box. People have asked questions and people have shared one thought or the other. This has been a session well spent. My prince, if I'm not asking for too much, please give us another date. We can take it offline at your earliest convenience.
Okay, I will look at it. I will look at it.
Any topic of your choice, please. We must continue to milk this wealth of experience.
No problem, sir. Definitely, we'll look at it and then we'll come. We will, I'm always available. As long as work does not, and then anywhere. I had a 40th birthday party today. I had to leave there. I'll commit a commitment that I will be back if I can. And so I needed to do this. So I want to say thank you to everybody. It's been my pleasure to have this dialogue on building your organization leadership capabilities. Now, the dialogue can continue. I like to keep the engagement on social media or on the platform that my brother has graciously provided. My brother, God will bless you. You know, DJ has have something in common. We like to empower people. We don't just... So, for everyone that has joined, thank you very much. I appreciate you for listening to all the rumble, but I think the rumble has rumbled a lot of things in your mind. And if you need any further support, we're available, either through Mr. Oluyemi Adeosun, or you can reach me on any of these platforms. It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much, and good night to everyone. Over to you, Mr. Adeosun.
Thank you so much. In the next 1 minute, his contacts are still on the screen. His email is there. His phone numbers are there. He's reachable via WhatsApp, also showing. And if you prefer to reach him via LinkedIn, it's also showing. On behalf of the over 70, 80 people who joined the live session tonight and the several hundreds and thousands who will watch the recorded version anytime from tonight, we would like to express our profound appreciation to Prince Adeniyi Aromolaran. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for empowerment. Thank you for everything you do for the HR community and the Nigerian state. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your night. Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you very much.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.